Sam Ingalls said, if you take the salt for the meat's going to rot. Well, within 3 years, 1965 to 1968, it went from 100% Sound of Music, greatest story ever told, family films, to 82% R rated, the first sex and Satanism film. And that's because the church left Hollywood. Hollywood did not
Yeah.
leave. The church is called to be what you're doing. What you're doing is so good. It's salt and light. We're supposed to be there doing the good, the true, and the beautiful, not
Yeah.
bashing. So I learned what they did. They showed Hollywood how to make more money. We show people how to make more money. We do an economic analysis of the box office. We look at every movie in terms of all these 150 criteria. We show what makes more money. And we do this big gala that you're going to be invited to be on the red carpet. And last year, of our nominees, one of them made $2 billion at the box office. He's a good friend of ours. He came up to me and said, I'm a Christian. The director's a Christian, the writer's a Christian. It was Inside Out 2. And then the second movie made $1 billion.
Welcome to the Heart of Show Business. I am your host, Alexia Melocchi. I believe in great storytelling and that every successful artist has a deep desire to express something from the heart to create a ripple effect in our society. So, welcome back to another episode of the Heart of Show Business. I'm your host, Alexia Melocchi. As my guest today, I have someone who has dedicated his life to elevating the standard of storytelling in Hollywood through a lens of faith, of family, and values. And what's really interesting, how I actually met IRL in real life with this gentleman, is I saw him, my eye caught him at the Produced By conference at Universal Studios. We're both obviously PGA producers, and he's been on my wish list for forever. But when God chooses to put someone in your path, there is no stopping him. And obviously, this is a perfect example of faith and playing its little hand on making things happen. And also on just knowing that we are in a period of darkness and we are seeking light. And this gentleman really represents everything that is about the light. Dr. Ted Baehr is the founder of the MovieGuide magazine, which is a powerful voice advocating for uplifting and redemptive entertainment. He's also the author of several books. I can't even name them. There's too many. And he just came out with one new one, which he'll talk about in this podcast. But he is also the creator of the impactful class, How to Succeed in Hollywood Without Losing Your Soul, which I think is inspired by his book. So I can't wait to dive into your insights of the evolving entertainment landscape, your mission, the whole thing. Welcome to my show.
Well, it's great to be on your show because when we met, I said, "What's your name?" And I said, "That's a beautiful name. You've got a
Yes.
great name." And then I realized your accent is better than your name, so I'm impressed. You should
Ah,
succeed in Hollywood because you've got all the things that they need to succeed. And I've been in the industry 76 years. And
wow.
my father starred in 62 movies between 1926 and World War II, and then after World War II, he starred on Broadway from 1946 to 86. So he starred in some of the biggest plays, some of the biggest. He won the box office award in 1936. So there you go.
That's incredible. And what I also love about it is you have a business with your son, and I also have a business with my mom, who's my business partner, and she kicks booty, as they say, and she taught me everything that I learned in the business, especially values and staying true to yourself. And so it's really special to have you because I'm really curious. I mean, you're really the OG innovators in young people's terms, because you started the MovieGuide, and I'd love to know what was your personal conviction that guided you to launch this into the world.
Well, I grew up in the industry, as you know.
Yeah.
My mother died when I just 1 month into my 14th year. I was not a Christian. My parents were stars. They were not Christians.
Hmm.
They did everything else. And I've just a book about my father. So when my mother died, I went off the deep end. I tried a lot of self-destructive behavior, a lot of drugs, which were easy to get in Hollywood in the 60s. Uh, and Peter Fonda was one of my suppliers. So,
Oh,
and
I
then
know Peter. God bless him. Yeah.
those days, it was the big deal. And too many, and some of my friends from all that died, and some of my friends never recovered their brains, which you probably know. And then, I did a lot of salacious, and I'm not going to define salacious, but finally, my father was extremely handsome, which is why he was in movies after 1929. And a woman got interested in him, but she had just come to Christ through Billy Graham. So she took him to Christian events. She had to she had to make him a Christian before she could date him.
Mm.
And he'd take me to protect him. And I'd say these people are crazy. And then I became one and knew they were crazy. And I didn't want to go to these. I'd walk out of the event. She said, finally, read the Bible, tell me what's wrong with it. I'd gone to Dartmouth and Cambridge and University of Bordeaux and Toulouse and University of Munich and Cambridge University. And I just said, okay, I'll read it just to prove that it's wrong. And I read it, and it proved that I was wrong. The Bible convicted me. So I changed, and I went to a mainline cemetery. Oh, they call it a seminary. It's not a cemetery. It's a seminary where they teach people, because I needed to know about the Bible in New York, and they own the rights to the Chronicles of Narnia, C.S. Lewis. I'm going to visit C.S. Lewis's
Wow.
stepson's son in Australia in next week.
Wow.
And because I was asked to do the movie they'd been trying to make since C.S. Lewis gave him the rights, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And we did it on CBS. We won an Emmy Award. We had 37 million viewers. And I grew up with a man, my father, who was getting awards, and I didn't want to get awards. I said, how can I redeem the media? I had funded five very sleazy films. One was Oliver Stone's first film. Don't look it up because it's no good. So I mean,
Oops.
no, morally not good. And and Oliver, I don't think he's changed. But anyway,
Oh, he
uh,
has not. Yeah.
dinner with his best friend on Friday. But I just said, how do we influence the industry? So
Yeah.
I found out about the old church film office. It used to be a Jewish Defense League, the Catholic Defense League, the Protestant Film Office, and I inherited all the files from one of them. They had cleaned up Hollywood during the 30s. From 1933 to 66, Hollywood was 100% films that you could take your kids to. And then in 1965, they shut down the Protestant Film Commission. And the head of Paramount Pictures, Sam Ingalls, said, if you take the salt for the meat's going to rot. Well, within 3 years, 1965 to 1968, it went from 100% Sound of Music, greatest story ever told, family films, to 82% R-rated, the first sex and Satanism film. And that's because the church left Hollywood. Hollywood did not
Yeah.
leave the church. The church is called to be what you're doing. What you're doing is so good. It's salt and light. We're supposed to be there doing the good, the true, and the beautiful, not
Yeah.
bashing. So I learned what they did. They showed Hollywood how to make more money. We show people how to make more money. We do an economic analysis of the box office. We look at every movie in terms of all these 150 criteria. We show what makes more money. And we do this big gala that you're going to be invited to be on the red carpet. And last year, of our nominees, one of them made $2 billion at the box office. He's a good friend of ours. He came up to me and said, I'm a Christian. The director's a Christian. The writer's a Christian. It was Inside Out too. And then the second movie made $1 billion. Meanwhile, that other award ceremony, the Academy Awards, their biggest movie had only made by a pornographer. It was pure pornography, and it was his third pornographic film, and it only
Wow.
made $32 million. So
Wow.
we choose the good, we help producers. I just went to lunch today with Neil McDonough,
I
who,
love Neil and his wife, Rube. They're such wonderful people. I've known them forever. Yes.
he
And he does a lot of
yes,
Angel
he was asking,
Studios.
do I
Yeah.
reach people? And then in my office, another person, Adam Anders, was
Yes.
so, we do this all the time, and
Yeah.
we teach people, like with Neil, I was showing him how to reach a bigger audience
Yeah.
and how to cultivate the church and how to cultivate, different groups that can help him because their marketing budget is so small. I had lunch a couple of weeks ago with the former head of Sony, and I've always told my class marketing is 60%. Most
Yes.
people go into Hollywood and they think that marketing is nothing. They think about the script and the movie, which is very important. But most of the movie success, you can have a great movie like Neil's last movie, The Last Rodeo.
Yeah. Yeah.
They only spent like $8 million on marketing. Well, let, can I use this example?
Of
Let's say
course.
he's from Boston. Let's say you want to buy an ad on Friday in the Boston Globe. That's $200,000, $300,000. Saturday, $300,000. Sunday, 300. That's $900,000. You want to buy the radio stations, the TV stations. You're now investing $3 million in Boston. When a Hollywood film opens in, 5,500 theaters. Now, his film, because I love Angel, but it only reached 1,500 theaters. But 1,500 times 3 million for major markets, that's a $60 million budget. You wonder why Hollywood films are $200 million and why their budget. So if you're going to compete with Hollywood films, you've got to have a tremendous budget in marketing. You've got to be able to, people have to know the film is out there. And he was telling me that, he does podcasts and things like this, and people didn't know about the film. Well, if
Yeah.
you don't know about the film, you're not going to go to the film. So I teach people how to make the film. I teach people how to succeed, how to write the script, but the most important, I teach the business of Hollywood because
Yes.
Hollywood is a business. It's not just.
Yes.
So I'm going to get a copy of your book. We're going to look at it. I'm going to help you and to reach more people with your book because that's what
Oh, I
we do.
love that. Thank you so much. No, you're absolutely right. It's not show friends, it is show business, although it is better when you work with your friends. That's a given. But I love what you said about, the marketing issue. And I'm wondering, because everything is about influencers today, everything is about social media. And I think if there were more Christians or more family-oriented talent that would use the social media more, we might have a better chance to push the right material through. Because let's face it, the word faith used to be almost like a no-no to even mention it. And I find it fascinating what you just said, because when before we used to say, oh, that's just a Christian or faith movie, it's just the Bible, people are going to go and see it. And if they don't do their homework, they're not going to know that it's not just about the people who read scripture. It's about people who want to teach their children and their grandchildren family values. What's it like to have a solid, good marriage, or to raise your children the right way, to pray, whatever it is you want to pray on. It doesn't really matter. And I think that faith was given a bad name in Hollywood. And like you said, I'm glad that now with things changing, I don't want to be political about it, but things changing, there is an opening. But I think ultimately Hollywood looks at box office and looks at the money. And that's where everything
Well,
is led.
we showed them how to make the money, but
Exactly.
one of
Exactly.
the things that shows them how to make the money
Right.
is, we reach 69 million people, and most of them are young mothers between 30 and 50. They've got young children. They're exactly what you just defined. They want to protect their children, so they come to MovieGuide.org. I have a friend who's one of the heads of one of the big companies, and he said that his movie got mediocre reviews from Variety and LA Times. And we gave it a great review because it was a family film. It was a fun family film with good values and faith in it. And it made 400 million in the first 2 weeks because at 69 million people at $10 a ticket, that's $690 million.
Yeah.
All those people want movies. And every week, which we show Hollywood, Hollywood makes movies for different people group. My wife was Argentine, so they make movies for, she passed 3 years ago. They make movies for Spanish speaking people, not for Argentines because they
Yeah.
speak a little bit different Spanish.
Latin.
And
Yeah.
they make movies for African Americans, they make movies for Koreans. And we just said, look, every week about 110 to 120 million people go to church, and only about 7 or 8 million people go to movies. So 10 times more people
Hmm.
church. This is a marketplace. And when I did The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, we reached 37 million people because we reached that big church audience. And that was back, in the time the country was only 170 million people. Today, it's 360 million people. So we've just taught them this is another audience. Let's make movies for this audience. We make
Yes.
the Korean off, and we can reach this audience. And the young mothers are happy about it because they keep coming to Movie Guide.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And there is an organization that approached me at some time called Kids First. I don't know if you heard about it, but basically what they do is they actually ask you to see the movies before they come out and they let the children see it. They have a curated group of kids so that the kids can see if they understand what this movie is about and if they're giving it the rating into the things that falls into what children are going to look like. And I think we need more people like that. And that's why I was really fascinated by your course, because you know how to succeed in Hollywood without a soul, right? Without losing a soul, not without a soul. You have to have a soul without losing a soul. And we all know that Hollywood tends to, whether you want it or not, maybe out of desperation, maybe out of struggle, maybe out of hanging out with the wrong people, it does corrupt filmmakers. And I would love to know, how do you teach them or show them the way to stay true to their values, their faith, and their integrity while building a sustainable career? What advice would you give them, and what would you tell them to avoid? I know it's a
Well,
long question.
we do. I used to be head of a department at Berkeley and head of a department at City University, New York. So I've had big classes. When I spoke in the Philippines, there were 60,000 people. You speak in America, but we only limit the class now to 6 to 8 people. And we get some people that are very prominent. One person who owned part of Great American Family Channel, another person was on the board of the biggest broadcasting company. And we teach them how to reach people. And first thing is the message, is to help them understand the message, that the message should be that love triumphs over
Yes.
hate and envy and et cetera, and how to construct that message so that it's going to be extremely powerful. Or for instance, my friend who did Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2, the message is
Love that.
joy of the Lord is our strength. He said we were the only one who understood the message. You probably did too, but
Yeah.
we reached a lot of people.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, Riley, Joy is running her character traits. They're not psychological traits because they don't fit the psychology. They're biblical traits. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, stuff. So she's running the show. And then anxiety comes in and puberty takes over. Riley goes nuts. She gets mean to her friends. She gets selfish. She gets, etc. And Joy is driven out to the edge of her universe, where finally, in her character traits, Joy prays. She gets back in. She gets anxiety under control. Riley, once she's back into joy, because the joy of the Lord is our strength, then she apologizes to her friends. She repents and she turns around. So really, it's a biblical allegory, and people know that and they can understand that. So I teach people how to make that, and I teach people how to do the other aspects of the production, and to
Yeah.
make sure that it carries through so it responds to that big audience, which is the 10 times more that go to church every week than go to movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I love what you just said as an example with Inside Out too, because people think, I come from global distribution. That's where I started with my own sales agency, and I sold 50 plus movies to profit with my mom. My first can was at the age of 19. And one of the things that people don't understand is the thinking, oh, this is going to alienate the international market to say about a faith film. That doesn't really mean anything. Like you said, it's about telling the right story and about stories about values. Because if you look at Christianity, I mean, there are rules. I'm sure you heard about them. For example, if you release a film in South Africa and you show somebody drinking, that's not going to fly. If you're doing even if it's a Christian movie, if you're doing something in Brazil, you have to have at least one quote from the scripture. So every territory has its own little check marks of things that you need to release. But ultimately, if you can disguise it properly, just like you did, or like what you said as an example of, of Inside Out, it's
you
It's
weave it, I would use
God's
the word
work, you
weave it
know.
in, weave it into the plot. You don't have to disguise it, but you have to make it clear that it's woven into the storyline, into
Exactly.
a friend of mine, I was laughing at what you were saying because a friend of mine won our award, our Epiphany prizes for movies with strong Christian content. He emailed me this week. He's got another movie he's showing, but he said after the awards, he said, how did you recognize this? When I wanted to get money from Germany, they said that I had to have a gunfight. When I
Yeah.
wanted money from Rome, from Italy, they said I had to have a shot of the Vatican. When I wanted money in Paris, they said I had to have a love scene. When I wanted to get money from England, they said I had to have a shot of Parliament. He said I had to do so many things for each country to get money out of them. I
Yeah.
didn't think anybody could recognize the story anymore. So
Ex-
often put it in because you've got that beautiful picture of Cannes behind you, because you've got somebody financing you who's saying, if you want to do it in Brazil, you've got to do this. And if you want to do it in South Africa, where I
yeah.
shot more films,
Yeah.
you got to do this. So
Yeah.
it's
I'm
it,
actually curious because you just talked about Italy, and I just remembered about Cabrini. I'm sure you've seen the film, and I wonder why do you think it tanked? Because it was an amazing story. And I'm actually even surprised that my Italian community or my Italian Americans did not show up at the theaters as much as they should have, because it's still an immigration story.
I
And
can explain that to you.
yeah,
Uh,
please.
the guy who funded it is a good friend of mine, and he's funded a lot of other movies. Bella was his first movie because he funds, Alejandro and our friends there who made
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
I think Cabrini is a beautifully done film, well done. But again, it was done with a studio that I like, so I don't want to mention the name.
Yeah.
I know the people behind it, but they only put $8 million in marketing. $8 million
Mm,
in marketing cannot reach the American people. We got
yeah.
360 million people here. People didn't know about it, and that's why it didn't do well. And I kept telling him, you got to do better. In fact, he then went to Europe to try to make deals in Italy, and he went over to India and tried to make deals. I said, I can introduce you to the person who was the head of distribution in India, who's a Christian. I can introduce you to the person in Italy. A friend of mine took the movie Luther. Imagine this. It bombed in the United States because they didn't understand distribution. He got it into Germany. He goes to Cannes every year.
Who is
And
that? I want to know if I know him.
oh
Can you
no, I'm
name?
not gonna tell
No,
you.
we're not
But
gonna name names this time. Okay. We'll
he
say
made
that over lunch.
Luther $90 million in Cannes, and
Yeah.
it made over $90 million in Italy. I said,
Yeah.
"How did you do that with Luther? It's it's anti-Catholic anyway." So there's a market there.
There is.
Have to know who to talk to and how to reach that market. And I was doing that today with people that were here, trying to show them how to reach that market. Anyway, I'm going to show you the book that
Yes,
tells
please show me about your
you
next book. I love
this
how you lead the
book, How to
conversation.
Succeed in
Yes.
Hollywood. Blatant promotion.
Yes, please go. If you
Promotion.
don't want to take his classes because you don't have the time, just buy the book and it will at least be a good
And
lead
the
for
other
that.
one that you
And
have to
here's the
buy,
next one. What's the
History
next one about?
History of Hollywood. That's my father. He
Yeah.
starred in 62 movies. His pictures are on the front. The head of Sony got me the pictures and the rights to use them at no cost, which is good because it's hard to sell books. So go buy, the behind the scenes, the golden age of Hollywood and Broadway if you want to find out what succeeds, and the story of Robert Allen, who was my father. His real name was Ted Baehr, but when he signed his contract in 1929 at Warner Bros., they had Robert Allen because the studios used to give you a name.
Yeah.
You know that they would have
Yeah.
not have left you with Alexia, and because they own the name. So once they had your contract, then Warner Brothers would lend him out to Columbia Pictures or MGM or someplace else. It's a
Wow.
fascinating story because most people don't if you don't understand the history, it's going to be harder for you to succeed in the present. So it's fascinating and it's good and it helps you understand how to succeed now.
This is amazing. And of course, we're going to drop all the links in our story notes in our YouTube because we're on YouTube, we're everywhere. So we'll be dropping the links because, speaking of my name, the origin of my name is
I love
Greek.
your name. It's
Thank
and
you.
thing I said to you when
Yeah,
we
it's half Greek because my mother is Greek, and it's Alexia or Alexios is a defender of God. That's literally like what it means. And I'm doing my part with this podcast and with the movies that I'm trying to make. I feel I'm doing my part. I want to touch a personal note, and you just said to me that your wife recently passed, and I'm really sorry to hear that. And we all live moments of darkness, whether we like it or not. It's part of life, whether it's we're losing a loved one or there is a world that is going berserk right now. Um, when the going gets tough, is there a passage of scripture, a life lesson, some book or something that you hold on to keep you grounded and inspired?
Oh, there are a lot of them, and I go through them every morning. So, she
Pick
was
one.
on chemotherapy for 26 years for cicatricial pemphigoid, which removes the mucus lining in your body. And every child we had four, and I have 18 grandchildren, was a miracle because the doctor said you're not going to have a child because the mucus lining is important for a woman. And I'm not going to go into detail because I just went into too much detail. But she was supposed to live 4 to 6 years. So to live 26 years every day was a miracle. So if you want to quote one passage of scripture is Isaiah 53, 4 and 5, yet he himself bore our sickness and he carried our pains. But we in turn regard him stricken, struck down by God and afflicted, but he was pierced because of our transgressions, crushed because of our iniquities. We are healed by his wounds. So we are healed by his wounds, not
Yeah.
our actions, not our words, not our deeds. And God loves us so much that he gave his only begotten son that
Oh,
should not perish. And then John 10:10, and he guarantees us a more abundant life. So there you go.
I love that. That is such a beautiful, beautiful ending to our podcast. I could have you here for hours, but I'm sure you're a very busy man. And
Let's do it again.
we
Okay.
have to do it again. And honestly,
About something.
yeah,
Uh,
we'll find something. We'll have to have lunch. I'm accepting kindly your invitation to lunch, and I'm going to see you. I'm not recording this right now. This will be added out. But yeah, and I really wanted to thank you for sharing all your wisdom, your purpose, your deep love for meaningful storytelling, because that is so important. And I think that your voice is a guiding light. No wonder you are a very sought after speaker as well, and that you teach and then you impart your knowledge. Please keep on doing that. I know you're going to be around for a long, long time because you're surrounded by love and by family and by God. And I look forward to promoting your book, and I'll be sending you all my little clips and everything for you to promote. Anyone who's listened to this episode, please look this incredible human, son of God up. Look up MovieGuide. Check out MovieGuide before you see a movie, because you never know. You might find something that, marketing did not make do their job. And then you'll go, I missed that movie. I should have seen that. So please check out MovieGuide, follow the website, subscribe to the newsletter. If you like this podcast episode, please review, share with your friends. I don't have any sponsors. I do it for the love. And thank you, Dr. Baehr, for being here. And thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you for being a blessing, and I love the show. God
Oh,
bless you.
thank you so much, everyone. Over and out. As they say in Italy, ciao.